afternoon and welcome to the virtual Juneteenth celebration. Of course, this is not how we ideally would like to celebrate, but we are able to make it happen. Thank you to Charlie Alcock and Indiana Wesleyan in helping us make this vision come to life. We would also like to thank everyone that is participating today. Just so you are aware, we are following all CDC guidelines in making sure that everyone is safe during this recording.
Right, and so just a little history about Juneteenth. January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by Abraham Lincoln, ending slavery in the United States. But because Texas and some of the other areas of the South wanted to hold on to their slaves for a little while, they were allowed to. And so for 2.5 years, those slaves did not know that they were actually free. Then the Union soldiers came down to Texas to inform them like, hey, sorry, you guys have been free for 2 years now. So from the following year on, what has now come to be known as Juneteenth has been celebrated by blacks all over the country. We want to continue in that tradition this afternoon. So please sit back and enjoy the show.
Calling me to answer, gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones.
Welcome to the Juneteenth celebration. My name is Andre Payne, and for this segment, we're going to be discussing financial literacy. As it relates to financial literacy, we're going to focus on 7 critical areas of financial literacy. When it comes to financial literacy, before focusing on those 7 areas, I think it's important to understand and adequately identify exactly what we mean when we say financial literacy. Financial literacy is essentially acquiring and obtaining the skill sets necessary to adequately manage and organize one's finances. When it comes to financial literacy, that particular concept has escaped the Black community often based upon economic oppression. However, given the resurgence of economic empowerment, financial literacy has begun to come near the forefront. When it comes to financial literacy, the first component is opening a checking and savings account. Opening a checking and savings account is a fantastic thing because it allows you the opportunity to adequately organize and protect your money. You have an opportunity to limit fees that could oftentimes be associated with external institutions as it relates to check cashing places. And the checking account can oftentimes serve as a conduit for saving, debt reduction, and investing. When it comes to the second component, that primarily deals with developing a budget. Developing a budget provides you with an opportunity to adequately identify the areas that you want your money to go. One of the first things that you want to do is to label and add up all of your monthly expenses. Next, you'll want to label and add up all of your monthly income, and then you would try to determine the difference. This is what we would call the disposable income. In order to adequately organize your budget, there are tools available called EveryDollar, Excel, and Mint. You just have to figure out which tool works best for you. The next component is prioritizing savings. When it comes to prioritizing savings, this is something that's extremely important for the Black community, but any community for that matter. It's important to have a safety net, so to speak, in order to ensure that if any hardships occur, that you're well taken care of. One of the first components that you'll want to do is develop an emergency fund. Experts say that you'll want to add up all of your expenses for the first month, and then take 3 months of expenses, 3 to 6 months of expenses, and save that for your emergency fund. If you're an entrepreneur or a seasonal worker, you might want to save 6 to 8 months as it relates to the expenses. In order to commit to doing this, you would want to start by saving at least 10% of your net income, which is the amount of money after taxes and deductions each month. Prioritizing debt reduction is the next step. Debt can oftentimes eat away at your finances, so it's important to be intentional and to focus on reducing the debt as much as possible. After adequately developing an emergency fund, you'll want to utilize the debt snowball method in order to reduce and hopefully eliminate your debt. You'll do this by beginning by paying off the smallest debt first, then focusing on paying the minimum payments for the larger debts. Once that small debt is paid off, you'll move to the next largest debt. The next phase is finding ways to invest. Investing is a way that you can build your money and grow your money after you've become financially stable. Compound interest is one of the concepts that's associated with investing, which really deals with the accumulation of interest that you earn on your money. Typically, when it comes to investing, you'll want to start by saving for retirement or investing for retirement. You can do this by opening up an individual retirement account. And what you'll want to do is try to invest a certain percentage of your income each month. Experts suggest 5 to 15%. What you might want to do is set up an automatic withdrawal so you don't have to worry about taking the money out yourself. It'll just come out of your account every month. Next, you'll want to save above and beyond your emergency fund to invest in things such as real estate, stocks, and businesses that can really help build generational wealth. You want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to study and prepare and find all the educational resources necessary prior to investing. Lastly, if you're looking at saving money for your young people, or if you have children or any loved ones that you want to save money for their college funds, you want to start a 529 plan. With a 529 plan, you don't just save money, but you save money in an intentional way, utilizing compound interest. The next phase is supporting and contributing to economic empowerment within your community. It's important to ensure that just like we're intentional with diversity and inclusion within institutions and organizations, we have to be intentional when it comes to supporting Black businesses. They oftentimes do not receive the same level of support as their white counterparts. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to do your due diligence to do research and find companies, organizations, businesses within Grant County and beyond to help support some of your day-to-day needs. Another part or component of this particular aspect is partnering with other entrepreneurs to ensure that you utilize the concept of group economics. And so if you find someone in the community that has a mutual interest that you do, try to come together, put your money together so that you can actually develop whatever business endeavor you're looking to acquire. Next would be mentoring young entrepreneurs. Once you've established your own business and you're adequately supporting others, you'll want to make sure that you're paying it forward by mentoring others within the community. And so if you see a teen or a young person who has an interest in business or has an idea or a concept, help them further develop that concept. Last but not least, estate planning. This is something that oftentimes is ignored within the Black community. However, it's something that we can't afford to ignore anymore. One of the first things you want to do as it relates to estate planning is create a will. The will is a written document that will allow you the opportunity to adequately assign and identify when and where your money and your assets will go upon death. Next is starting a term life insurance policy. The term life insurance policy is afforded to your beneficiary upon death. And typically when it comes to a term policy, it's associated with a specific time frame given maybe 20 to 30 years as it relates to the term. Now, within that time frame, upon your death, your beneficiaries would receive a large amount as it relates to the policy. This actually could be much more beneficial than a whole life policy that oftentimes the payout is much shorter and much less. When it comes to setting up a trust fund, that is something that's extremely important as it relates to the assets that you've been able to accumulate. So if you've gone through each one of these steps and you've accumulated real estate assets or stocks, you'll want to make sure that you set up trust funds so that it can be secured and protected for your loved ones upon your death. Obviously, that is the list that we've gone through. I think each one of those 7 steps, they're sequential in nature. And I think each one of them will help you achieve the kind of financial freedom and financial success you would be looking for. If you have questions or you're looking for additional resources or ways to facilitate the various steps that are on this list, feel free to utilize the list of resources that we have here or reach out and we'll be able to give you additional information. That's all we have. Thanks.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
We are here and ready to talk politics. I am joined by Brandon Hartwick and Tori Williams, and we are going to discuss some things that are prevalent to the Black community when it comes to politics, whether that's locally or nationally. So thank you guys for joining us for this Juneteenth celebration.
Thanks for having
Indeed.
us.
Appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So Tori, we'll start with you, ladies first. The first question, so there's been a lot of talk of should Black people sit out this next election? Some people feel like it's not important. There's no reason for Black people to get involved because it's kind of already set in stone. What are your thoughts? Should Black people sit this election out, or should we be active?
I think that there's never anything that's set in stone, and if we've learned anything from 2016, we should know that it is important for everyone to go out and vote. I think one of the misconceptions, especially in a presidential year, is that people assume that there's only one thing on the ballot, and there's so much more there. Just this year, we'll be electing Congress and our county commissioners and our county stuff, so no, people shouldn't sit out. They should absolutely go vote.
Brandon, what do you think? Should we stay at home or?
I think I'm all with the idea of voting for local politics and for voting for your state representatives, your state senators, even national representatives and senators. But there's certain times and certain things that we have to do as a community where we need to take a stand. So just because you don't cast a ballot for a certain individual in a presidential election doesn't mean that you're not actively engaged in the political actions of the country. It just means that if you decide we're not going to vote this cycle, it has to be explained. It has to be a reason behind it. So you're still politically engaged, but you're telling the people that you normally vote for, hey, it's not working. We're not going to come out and support you if you don't support us.
I agree. I agree with both of those. I think it's also extremely important that we educate policies, like educate people about policies and what they actually do. I think people have the idea, I'm voting for this person. I don't like this person, so I'm not going to vote for them. But they don't have a full grasp of policies and like what they're actually implementing and how those policies will affect us on a day-to-day basis.
Can I add something to that? I think that as far as Black people, we know that the criminal justice system is completely and totally a tool of oppression for us. And what happens is the judicial system is decided by whatever administration is in power. And so sitting out a presidential election for whatever reason, people have their reasons, but also that when you do that, you're not adding your voice to what happens with our criminal justice system. And I think that's incredibly important for us to think about.
Exactly. So kind of in the same vein, traditionally, at least over the past 50 years or so, the Black community has become almost unanimously Democrat. Like, they vote Democrat. I mean, I just know in my own household, you couldn't even talk about voting Republican or somebody was going to smack you. And so do you, and Brandon, we'll start with you, do you feel like that helps or hinders the Black community, those type of voting patterns where saying, hey, we're just going to vote Democrat no matter what?
I think it's a hindrance of the highest degree, because if you have politicians, especially on the national scene, that can exclusively depend on the Black vote, regardless of what they're doing. So the last time we had any kind of criminal justice reform in the United States, we had a Democratic president, and it didn't turn out in our favor. So we got to be very conscious of the people that we're putting into office, and we have to make demands of those people, and we have to have a mechanism to be able to punish, for lack of a better term, individuals who don't meet what we require.
Accountability, yeah.
Sure.
I agree, which may be surprising because I am a very vocal and active member of the Democratic Party, recognizing that the Democratic Party has indeed taken Black voters for granted in a lot of ways. For me, I think that it is important that if I'm going to criticize something, I have to make the steps to make sure that criticism is put into action, which is why I'm a member of the Democratic Party. Black women have traditionally been this reliable voting bloc for Democrats, and we haven't gotten anything from that. And so it's time for us to demand more. So
You are absolutely right. I feel the same way. we have to see something for our vote. I feel that's a piece that's been missing for a long time with the Democratic Party and the Black community.
One more thing, it's like we can't fool ourselves into believing that voting alone is going to fix the issues that we've come across, because, as I said earlier, we have more Black and brown elected officials than we've ever had in the history of our nation, and we're still running across the same patterns and issues that we've had for the history of our nation.
That's a very good point. And it actually rolls right into the next question. Tori, we'll start with you again. So we talked about demands, right? And so I want to bring it back to more of a locally, like here in Marion. What are some specific demands that the Black community needs to make from its elected officials, from the mayor, from city council members? What are some tangible things that we need to request as a Black community to see some difference here in Marion?
I think that's a loaded question, because in order to make those demands, we have an expectation that they're going to follow through, and I don't know if that's something that we've really seen come to fruition here. So part of me says is that we don't need to make demands, we just need to empower ourselves and do what we can do. The other piece of that is that, you know, they are elected to represent us, and I think that a lot of times we are put up as maybe human shields to say that there's diversity. And so demanding that diversity is not just this word that you use when you need to defend the lack of inclusion, but also looking at inclusion from an aspect of where are we on the boards, where are we on the commissions, and, you know, what are you doing to promote and create economic inclusion for the African American community or the minority community in general. So,
Right.
I think locally, as far as I'm concerned, I would demand a total overhaul of just police in general. I don't believe that it's a necessity. You know, I believe in the work that detectives do, and I believe in some of the things that happen within the criminal justice system. But the idea of officers of the law driving through the streets looking for somebody to be wrong, that's how we get into the position where you have marginalized communities and people who are being abused by authority figures, because all of us understand how a lot of these urban police departments were formed. So as a matter of continuance of history, it'll continue in the same pattern, you know, unless we do something to stop it ourselves. So I would.
So let me ask you this, and kind of both of you. So would it be, when it comes to the police, because I firmly believe, and I've talked to people about the issue how most of the police here in Marion don't live here in Marion, right? And would it be possible if there could be some sort of, you know, housing agreement to where, hey, you know, you're coming into Marion to be on the police force, or you're a rookie cop, and we will provide housing for you to live in those communities, to be around those people. Do you think that is beneficial as far as like building relationships with the community? I get what you're saying, whereas you don't want people driving around looking for trouble, but is another part of that the relational part, that we just don't trust police officers, and I would argue rightfully so. But would that help, having them living next door to you, doing life with you in your community? Would that be beneficial?
No.
I disagree.
No.
Go ahead, Tori.
So I think that when you look at policing in particular, there are multi-layers that you kind of have to unpack. There's a systemic issue, there's a cultural issue with policing itself, and then there's also the individual issues. You're looking at the individual issues. I would like to believe that if we had police who were active in our neighborhoods, that it would create a different dynamic. I've worked over in smaller communities where the police would come out and they would shoot basketball with the kids, and I worked at an alternative school, so you know their impression of the police is I'm in trouble, and that's why they're here. So I've seen what happens when police do take an active approach to being involved in their community. I think that's a hard road to get to. You know what I mean? So.
I think as long as you have these police departments and these law enforcement agencies structured the way that they are, I think it just opens the door for bad behavior. And there's a culture around
Sure.
police officers that doesn't accept pointing out bad behavior or making your displeasure known. So, you know, my thought process is we could have 100 good cops living in our community, but if one bad cop does something, are those 100 so-called good cops going to stand up? And
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So our last question is super, super vague, but I think there's a lot to it at the same time. And Brandon, we'll start with you. Why should Black people, why should the Black community care about politics?
because politics is just like any other thing in life. When you're talking about economics, it's easier when you do group economics. A lot of things become easier when you work as a group and you have certain interests as a group, whether you're Black or Asian or white or police officers or veterans or whatever. You have certain interests as a group, and in order to get those interests taken care of, it's beneficial for everybody to be on one accord and try to push our elected officials in the direction we want them to be.
Politics is, the basis of politics is public policy, and that is every single thing we do. There are very few things that we do in this country and in the city that do not somehow come back to politics, from the air we breathe to our water quality, where stop signs are, all of those things. And so it is important to not just, voting is like the bare minimum, but to understand and really get engaged with, how the people who are making decisions for you. So I think that's why we need to care.
Yeah, no, I agree with those 100%. And I've always said you'll find people who are very like pro-union, but then be like anti-politics, which is contradictory.
Yeah.
I always like to reference, I'm a huge Malcolm X fan, and for a large part, Malcolm was always talking about give us like 4 or 5 states and just kind of let us be. But that's a political move. It would have taken policy, and people would have had to vote on that to even have that happen.
I think I just wanted to say, like, as far as politics is concerned, and dealing in if you want to be a Democrat or you want to be a Republican or anything, whatever political party is closest to your ideas, then you have to, as a group, you have to be able to show those officials, those elected officials, the members of that political party, that you have the ability to not support them. So that's going back to Black people traditionally being Democrats. We've not given them any reason to believe that we would pull our support from them. And that being said, what purpose would they have in doing anything for us?
Again, thank both of you for coming on and for doing this. I appreciate it. The Black community appreciates it. It's good to hear different views and just to get people's thoughts on the political arena and how it benefits or hinders the Black community. So thank you guys.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Voter registration is now open. You can register to vote at indianavoters.com or .gov. So.
Get it done.
Do it.
Yeah, this a revolution in our time. Everybody's fighting, change coming, yes. That's why it's an acronym for riot. Everybody has a voice. Don't you dare stay silent. If you say nothing, you are an accessory to violence. Let these words dry the tears of our people that are crying. We can.
Hello, my name is Lee Cobb, and this is my wife, Carissa Cobb. And we're here today to basically discuss some of the health benefits of a plant-based diet. We're going to be juicing today. And my wife will be explaining some of the health benefits of the ingredients that we're using. So I'm going to turn on this juicer. This is a masticating juicer. This is the Omega 8007 for anyone that's interested. There's a difference between centrifugal juicers and masticating. The difference is where a centrifugal juicer may run at extremely high speeds, like 30,000 revolutions per minute. This is more like 80. And because we're using a slow press juicer, it's going to preserve the vital nutrients and enzymes. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this thing up, and my wife will start taking over. First thing we're going to use is some kale. It's always great to get leafy green vegetables in your diet. Next up, we're going to use some carrots, and do you mind giving them some benefits of carrots?
So carrots is rich in beta carotene, improves eyesight, helps maintain good digestion, boosts the immune system, and that's just a few properties of the benefits of carrots.
We're going to go to some apples, because with this type of juicer, apples are a lot softer, and it will actually cause the juicer to back up. So if you ever decide to get this type of juicer, what you're going to do is juice hard, soft, hard. You always want to follow soft items with something harder to push it through. So we're going to juice a few apples, and you can tell them some of the benefits of apples.
Okay. Apples are high in vitamin C, decrease risk of stroke and heart attack, helps your body get rid of metals and chemicals, and controls weight loss.
We're also going to throw in some celery.
Celery is an anti-inflammatory, also supports digestion, alkalizes the body.
Oh, that's cool. No, it's fine. We keep going. We also have beets. Beets are great for blood circulation. You look at the color, they're red. So we're dealing with blood. Also, I'm going to be throwing in some ginger. Ginger has an active compound called gingerol. Gingerol is great for high blood pressure. It's great also for blood circulation. If you're dealing with high cholesterol, it will actually help bring those numbers down. So again, we're just showing simple ways that families can get their kids involved, and you can start your morning off with a nice juice versus a heavy breakfast. If you break down the word breakfast, it means actually breaking your fast. So when your body is asleep, your digestive system is working to actually extract the nutrients, minerals, and vitamins from the foods that you ate the previous day. Unfortunately here, with the American diet, a lot of the foods that we eat, they don't have a lot of nutrients, vitamins, or minerals. Matter of fact, many of the foods that we eat right now, they didn't even exist 100 years ago. So we're really trying to show the health benefits. A lot of the problems and the issues, the diseases, the sicknesses can be alleviated just by eating and drinking healthy and boosting your immune system. And again, you can see that I'm going from soft with the apples, and then back to hard with like a carrot or a celery. And I won't juice all of this. I just wanted to basically give you guys a demonstration of what's possible. It's very simple. Meal prepping is very essential. The more you meal prep, you start cutting your items up the moment you buy them from the store. You cut them up, you store them in a glass container, and then when you want to have a nice juice or your children, you can make it at home. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to try not to make a mess. If I do, I apologize. I'm going to pour myself and my wife a glass. Come around here. Hopefully I don't spill this, because that would be really bad. And guess what? We're going to say cheers to life. And believe me, it's not bad. It's really good tasting. So again, I'm 46 years old. My wife is 44. And a lot of the things that's plaguing our communities, obesity, the top 2 causes of death in the United States, cancer and
Heart disease.
heart disease. And these are things that if people actually did the research and understood that they can be reversed by eating a proper diet. I mean, I can't personally try to tell people what to eat, what they shouldn't eat, what they should. I eat no meat products whatsoever, no dairy products whatsoever. If you start doing a research on meat and you see how it's pumped with hormones and this, that, and the other, antibiotics, and so much, it's so many genetically modified foods that if you can just take those out of your diet. I know people personally who are suffering from high blood pressure, but they drink tons of pop and they eat tons of horrible foods, and they take these prescription medications that actually, they begin to cause more adverse side effects, and they start to do more harm than good. Well, if you have high blood pressure, here's ginger root right here. Take this for 30 days straight. Drink no pop, eat no meat, eat no dairy. Go on a 30-day fast. Eat fruits and vegetables. Everything that we need right here on planet Earth is already here in some type of seed-bearing plant, fruit, vegetable, herb. And all we have to do is start relearning what is proper nutrition. Anything that you want to say? Because I know I'm getting mouthy.
That's it.
Also, this is raw ginger right here. This is freshly pressed. There's no additives. And this is another thing that we consume on a day-to-day basis. It gives you tons of energy. And again, it's great for blood circulation. It's great for bringing that high cholesterol down if you have it. Great for high blood pressure. And so these are things that you can do inside of your home, and you will see your health dramatically change. We're going to switch real quick. I'm going to do one last thing. I wanted to show what we drink in beverage form. We drink a lot of water also. The human adults are normally 60 to 70% water. So it's really, really important that you stay hydrated with plenty of water. Try to drink up to a gallon a day if you can. If you reach half a gallon, you're doing something great. And you will start to feel so much better as the water is going to cleanse you naturally. And you can actually add a lime to that water, and it's going to actually increase the pH, or the parts per hydrogen, of the water. So you can actually alkalize your water with something as simple as a key lime. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is we've showed a nice kale juice with apples, ginger, beets, celery, carrots. Now we're going to show a quick little meal that I prepare on a not daily basis, but maybe twice a week, and it's just a simple wrap, a kale wrap. And so what we have is quinoa, sweet corn. We have kale right here that I've seasoned with, a ton of seasoning. It has sliced almonds in it. Has hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are great for omega-3 fatty acids. What else is in there? I think I put some nutritional yeast. It's great for vitamin B12. We also have some hummus. Hummus, basically, this is garbanzo bean or chickpea, and we're going to use this as a spread. And so I normally wouldn't do this at home, but I'm going to take this wrap and put it directly on the table. And then I'm going to take some of this hummus. Now, I normally make the hummus at home, again, with chickpeas. It's very simple. You can YouTube it. It's a very easy recipe. This is store-bought right here, still no dairy whatsoever. And we're just going to take a couple, what's this, a teaspoon? Maybe a little bigger than a teaspoon.
Tablespoon.
I think it's a tablespoon. But anyway, that's the hummus. We're then going to take the kale mixture. Then I'm going to take a little bit of this quinoa. And finally, a little sweet corn. I normally would have way more ingredients, but we're just going to try to keep it simple today. And again, the overall point that we're trying to make is that you can eat healthy without eating the dead animals and the dairy products, because that eventually will catch up with you. It's going to cause all type of adverse side effects. And living in this COVID-19 day and age, you want to have a strong immune system. So what I normally do is then I'm going to go into the wrap. Now, hopefully this doesn't tear. If it does, it's a blooper. If I was making this for someone at home, I would have gloves on. But because I'm not, it's that simple. And normally it's a little bigger than that. And so what I do is grab a little bit of this saran wrap. And then we're going to do this little roll. Make it real tight. That's a wrap. Have a little plate right here. I know this is a messy presentation. I apologize. And this is a very healthy way to enjoy lunch, dinner, without all the heavy foods that really lack any type of nutritional value whatsoever. This is a kale wrap. Anyone can make this. It's very simple. So again, this is my wife, Carissa. I'm Lee. And our overall message to anyone watching this is do your part. You don't have to go completely vegan like we've went, but do what you can on your behalf to make sure that you can live the best quality of life possible, because it's not about living forever. It's about the time that you're here on planet Earth, being able to do whatever you enjoy doing. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality. With that being said, I appreciate your time.
So let's all come together, join hands, and just get annoyed at people who believe racism makes sense in a country built up minorities, slave work employed. Nobody's born racist, man. It's something you learn, deep rooted in your brain from the day of your birth. I think it's time that
Today is Juneteenth, and we've gathered to start a conversation. I'm sitting here with a few youth just to know the stories of the present and past that have molded us to who we are. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Gabrielle Robinson. I just graduated from Marion High School, and I'm 18, and I've born and raised in Marion, Indiana.
I'm Manuel Davis. I'm born and raised in Marion. I go to school at Central State in Ohio.
And I'm James Bell, a sophomore civil engineer major from Marion, Indiana, currently studying at Howard University in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so like I said, we're here to start a conversation, and I'd just like to know, when is the first time that you all realize that there's an injustice being done against the youth in our country and just minorities in general?
When I was in 5th grade, I had a teacher tell my mom that I wouldn't amount to anything, that I would end up in jail and wouldn't go on to college or do anything after school.
I didn't start realizing there was an injustice until, like, I think sophomore year of high school is when it started to really catch my eye, and I started to see the reality of what my life can be in this country.
I think I always knew from elementary that there was injustice in the past, but I don't think it was until about 7th or 8th grade that I started to see that it was still present.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it decided when I probably realized there was a real injustice was the Trayvon Martin case, and I don't know if that was like big like turnaround for me mentally. So how would you say like cases like that affect you directly?
Cases like that affect me directly because for example, the Trayvon Martin case, I wear a hoodie all the time, and I also am a very adventurous soul, so I like to go outside and see the nature, not only during the daytime, but as nighttime as well. And knowing that if I have a hoodie up, I could possibly not come back home. Yeah. That's scary. That's a whole different reality that I have to face on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, pretty much same. Like, I'm outside a lot, so it's scary being black and knowing that there's a possibility.
Yeah. Well, Gabrielle, I know a lot of times in the media it talks about how racism affects Black men, but you being a woman, how do you feel about that? Or how does it directly affect you?
Being a Black woman, I think it affects me more mentally than physically. I mean, Black women are, of course, like subject to be murdered or anything, but I think it's more of like a colorism thing, or people saying, you know, the way I speak is white, so I'm not Black, or just like demeaning more speech more than anything physical.
Yeah, and you hinted at like how people say like you talk white, and I'd like to like how have microaggressions or like racial gaslighting, like things around that conversation, how do you feel like we should go about that? Or for example, how do you feel about the debate around like the Confederate flag or people like racial gaslighting you? If you could talk on that, any of you.
I can. Like you said about having the quote unquote white voice. I've gone all the way through high school. That's all I've been called was the white Black boy. Like
Yeah.
James is the white Black kid, and I'd be like, what? I feel like there's some stereotype behind our culture that leads us to be seen as arrogant and ignorant and dumb and can't talk and can't speak, and because I could properly enunciate my words, and because I got good grades in class, and because I passed all my classes, I was a white boy, which never made any sense to me, and it would always just fill me with anger.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand that too. I also like think that's like, if you guys know about like the critical race theory, like how racism is so deeply engraved in our country, it's hard to escape. So like things like that just go to show like it's just such deep rooted in history. And then kind of going off of that, how do you guys feel about that? Like, do you agree with that it's so deep rooted, or how do you think there are ways that we can escape it, or how would you navigate that conversation with someone?
I think that the people have to be open to having that conversation. Like, it is definitely deeply rooted, so it's kind of harder for people to realize when they are being racist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to definitely be open. I
I think a lot of times if I'm having a conversation with someone and they say something that offends me, if I tell you, hey, that was kind of racist, or hey, like maybe you should phrase that differently, instead of getting defensive, like people actually need to start listening, like, oh, maybe that was insensitive, or maybe I should work on the way I say things, because then we're all just mad and we get nowhere.
Yeah.
And lastly, like you said, it's deep rooted in our country. Racism is one of the foundations of our country, honestly.
Yeah.
If that's not how it was created, the entire America that we know as today wouldn't be what it is without us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So of course racism it's been deep rooted from the beginning of America.
Yeah, I like how you said that, but also I would like to, it kind of made me think, there's like a large quote going around, it's not enough to not be racist, you have to be anti-racist. And I think that's kind of what you were hinting at in a sense. So what does that mean to you personally? I know like for me, that means like we see these officers and people being deliberately destructive to the Black community. So it's not enough just to say, hey, I'm not them. It's like, we need to stop them. Would you agree, or like, what do you think of that?
I feel like I agree, but the only problem I have with that same is I don't know how to stop them other than their mind and their heart.
Yeah.
And if I can't reach to somebody's mind and their heart, then how am I supposed to get through them at all? If I can't get you through your mind, your soul, and your spirit, where am I going to get to you? You don't care enough. It's just...
Yeah, for sure. I also think like a lot of people have been hit with the it's okay to agree to disagree. And I think like it's kind of frustrating in the sense to have to come to the conclusion we have to agree to disagree, because when you agree to disagree and it's talking about someone's rights and the oppression of our people, how can you just like disagree to that? So what would you say when someone says, well, I don't think we are going to come to terms on this situation, or how would you navigate that conversation?
I think, like, me personally, I still kind of, like, press the issue.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like as a man, I deserve to be heard. So when they try to, like, pull we'll agree to disagree, I'm like, well, why are we, like, what is there to disagree about?
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me how my life is, and, like, you can't, you know?
Yeah.
And also, like you said, agree to disagree. And not only as a man, just as a person in general,
Yeah.
I have something that my opinion matters. Not opinion, but like what I have to say matters,
Yeah.
and what you have to say matters as well. And to agree to disagree is not a compromise in no sort. If we can't compromise, then how are we going to be one, and how are we going to be all?
Yeah.
If we can't even come to a common ground, it doesn't have to be, hey, I agree with black, you agree with white. Can we meet in the middle? There is a gray area. There's a
Yeah.
gray area. We don't want the gray area, but there is a gray area where we can just like live together. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think how you said, like, it's not black versus white. A lot of people are manipulating the Black Lives Matter movement to be something as black versus white, when honestly, in my opinion, it's everyone versus racism. Right. And I think that's a conversation that needs to be heard, and we as youth have a specific voice in, because we're the next generation of people coming in. So I think we need to switch that narrative too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Also, I would like to say there's one question. I know we've been talking about how can we start a conversation and how our stories have affected that, but also at the same time, what's something that we can tangibly do other than just, hey, let's sit down and have this conversation? I think it's good to reach people individually, but what else do you think? What's the next step of this?
I think there needs to be some type of system within the schools and even in like our churches or like the Y or the Boys and Girls Club, where not just kids or adults, but like everyone can sit down and have a conversation together, or there'd be classes or just any type of seminar to bring awareness and to bring a corporate conversation to what's going on, not just individually at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And like you said, something tangible we can do. Like, if you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem, which I can feel like I can say, because since I was little, I'm more towards Malcolm. I want to get rowdy, but that's not the way to go about it. You know, I don't need to be out here destroying stuff to get what I want. But at the end of the day, I'm so fed up and so angry and so tired. What else can I do?
Yeah.
What else can I do than walking, protesting, yelling, shouting for you to hear me, other than just start tearing stuff up? You know, like, at this point, I'm tired. I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm furious. I don't know. That's, if I had the answer, it would have been solved by now.
Yeah. And I also think that brings up a good point. Like, a lot of people are angry about what's going on, and I honestly, in my opinion, I have no idea how you can be upset. Like, you can only poke someone for so long until something happens. And what we're seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg of what's going on underneath. And I think a lot of people, when we have this week long of Black Lives Matter protests, that's just what they're seeing. But behind the scenes, thousands and thousands of people have been working for years, months, and that's things that we don't see from the media. So also, I guess, coming off of that, how would you say the media has either helped or harmed what's going on right now?
I think the media, well, it depends on what media you're watching, but certain medias are definitely spinning it to where it seems like we're not being inclusive for everybody. Like, we're only here for us, and that it's not about the other side. Like, it's equality. We're not fighting for us to be on top. We just want to be seen as equal.
Yeah. I think that plays a big role. And like, everyone keeps throwing around the word equal, which is what we are reaching. But I think one of the questions that I think James was bringing up, if he had the answer, would have been resolved by now.
Exactly. I don't want equality at this point. I just want acknowledgement.
Yeah.
I just want acknowledgement and recognition. I know we're getting it from the outside, but I need the inside to acknowledge what is actually going on.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've been screaming and yelling for, is just to be seen, to be heard. I don't know what equality looks like moving forward. I don't really think anyone does, but to be acknowledged is just a basic human right, I think. So, so I would like to challenge everyone at this point, since we've had this conversation, to just acknowledge individuals. When you see injustices being done, it's not that hard just to be like, hey, this is wrong. I get it's scary to hop in. I assume you guys would agree. But something that I've found to be important is just like seeing these people. So I don't know. This sounds really corny, guys, but it's gonna be okay. So one thing I've done has changed all my streaks on Snapchat to be like educational facts. I encourage you all to do that. People start a conversation and it'll be done. But like we said, we just want to be heard, acknowledged, and seen. So I don't know, do you guys have any tips or challenges that you would like to throw out? Just like be seen, be heard, start a conversation.
Being a bigger guy, I've always been told like I come off as aggressive. So like when you see somebody like I'm 6'4", 260 pounds. So when you see somebody of the bigger size, like don't immediately think that we're a threat. Like it's not. It's just how I look. Once you get to know me, I'm really a nice person. So I challenge people not to be threatened.
And out on your point, and not to be threatened, it's okay to be cautious. Our world is dangerous. There's a lot of things that could go wrong at any point in time. Be cautious, not scared, like you said, not threatened. Just be cautious. Just be aware of your surroundings. You never know what a person is capable of. You don't know what anybody is capable of. Walking down the street any day. Just be cautious, though. You don't have to be terrified and afraid.
Yeah.
My answer's really corny, but like smile at me. Like don't look at me on the street and be like, oh, I don't know how to engage. Like smile and say hi, even if I don't know you. Like I don't think it's that hard. Like you smiling or acknowledging my presence shows me that you don't think that I'm scary to you. Yeah. So yeah, just smile at me.
Do people still acknowledge other people in 2020 with all the phones and stuff?
Man,
is that still a thing?
I don't really.
People say hi to people anymore. Like if I wave to you, will you say hi
can
back?
Snap after you see them. I think that's important. Okay, well, thank you guys for sharing your opinions and just coming out and being open and sharing your story and your opinions, because I know it's hard to do, and it's honestly great seeing people come up here, be vulnerable about their situations. So thank you guys for tuning in. I challenge you to listen and acknowledge everyone. I dare you to be seen. I dare you to be heard. I dare you to go out and fight injustice. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Let's get rid of this hurt, because that's the only way we'll ever see peace on earth.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Hello everyone, I am Tashima Davis and I am a local artist, illustrator, and author. I also teach at Marion High School, but today I am here to showcase my books. So we have 6 books that we wrote as a family and then I illustrated them all. So the book that I want to talk about today is Brown Beauty. This is our 4th book, and you can purchase any of these books at Echo Gallery here in town, 209 South Washington Street. But the one I want to talk about today is Brown Beauty, and this book was created because my oldest, Zeta, had a few identity issues when she was 4. She would come home and tell me that she wanted blonde hair and blue eyes and things of that nature, and I struggled as a black parent for a little bit, and I thought, maybe I should put her in a book so that she can truly see how beautiful her brown skin is. So that's what I did, and that's how this book came about. The book is full of affirmations that you can read to your child or you can speak over your child. The one that I'm going to read today is called Say What. It says, say what you will, I am brilliant. Say what you will, I am beautiful. Say what you will, I am kissed by the sun. Twice, to be exact. Say what you will, I am brave. Say what you will, I am strong. Say what you will, I am proud, because I know who I am. Say what you will, I am kind. Say what you will, I am confident. Say what you will, I am successful, extremely blessed, in fact. Say what you will, I am worthy. Say what you will, I am happy. Say what you will, I am loved, tremendously so. Say what? So from that list of affirmations and adjectives that describe Zeta or can describe you, which one is your favorite?
My favorite is strong.
Good. So say what you will, I am strong. Can you do that with me? Okay, thank you. And what's your favorite?
Mine was say what you will, I am brave.
Good job. Say what you will, I am brave. What makes you brave?
Just speaking out.
Good job. Speaking out does make somebody brave, and I'm so happy you're being so brave by being so young. It's awesome. And what's your favorite one?
Beautiful.
And yes, you are very beautiful. So say what you will, you are beautiful. Say what you will, you are brave. Say what you will, you are strong. Okay. I'm going to read one more from this fourth book, and it is titled Create. God gave you the gift to create. Create happiness, create laughter, create peace, create beautiful things. Create. God gave you the gift to create. Create a new dance. No? Okay. Create a wonderful song. Create a new style. Create beautiful things, but just create. So again, this is Brown Beauty. We are local, so you can purchase the books. Just look up Echo Gallery, or you can stop by and see us. All of my books highlight and display beautiful brown children because representation matters.
Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving.
Keep in Your Heart the Blood by Christina K. Remember always the glory days, the dances, the songs, the chants, rituals, customs, the people. Remember the times in beautiful Africa, your people, from green forests and golden deserts to the deepest, darkest regions of the Congo and Rwanda. Here in this land, hear always in your heart the beating of the drum, the ancient customs of the Kagani. Remember always the kings and queens, Tutankhamun and Cleopatra. But do not sit and not remember the dark days. Keep in your heart the blood spilled by those who fought for our freedom, the blood of the slave as the whip touches the flesh. Do not be enslaved. Be empowered. Feel it, taste it, drink it. Gather it in buckets and bathe in it. Bathe your children in it. Keep in your heart the blood.
In Isaiah 58, the prophet Isaiah tells Israel that this is the kind of fast that God desires. The kind of fast that God desires of his people is the kind of fast that loosens the chains of injustice. That is the kind of fast that God desires and what is pleasing in the sight of God. And in the history of America, black people have been oppressed since its inception. even though we celebrate the 4th of July, let us remember that black people were still enslaved in America. And in 2020, black people are still suffering from the oppression of white supremacy in America. Although black people have been enslaved to a bondage, not by our own agenda, it's also important for whites to understand that they are also enslaved to the same bondage. Shalom is what God requires for all of creation. It's this idea that there is abundant flourishing in all of creation. And our freedom is bound together. If you're not free, I'm not free. If you're in bondage, I'm in bondage. May this Juneteenth celebration not just be another encouraging word, but may what you've heard today and what you are experiencing right now be something that transforms the way that you live, so that we will undo together the chains of injustice. Let us pray. Father, we come before you right now, God, and we thank you for Jesus Christ, and we thank you for the liberating power of the Holy Spirit, God. And we pray right now, God, that you would do something in us, God, as people who are called by your name, God, that you would do something in us to cause us to move in a way that undoes and undoes and loosens the chains of injustice for people in America. May we not be bound by the supremacy of whiteness, but may we be liberated to live into your kingdom the way that you desire. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.